In this podcast episode, investigative journalist George Bamby shares his extensive undercover experience with Christian Brueckner, the prime suspect in the disappearance and presumed murder of Madeleine McCann. George takes listeners through his multi-year pursuit of Brueckner across Germany, exposing disturbing details about the suspect's criminal background, behavior, and alleged involvement in the high-profile case. The conversation also touches on the public's misconceptions about the McCann family, ongoing police actions, and George's plans to subject Brueckner to a lie detector test. George Bamby recounts the beginning of his personal investigation, which started after seeing Brueckner's picture linked to the McCann case on television. Upon learning about the suspect, George used his investigative skills to track Brueckner across Germany, traveling multiple times over several years and spending tens of thousands of his own money during the process. He posed as a book publisher interested in helping Brueckner write a book upon his release from prison as his undercover cover story. Despite police surveillance and gang threats, George managed to infiltrate Brueckner's circle, visit his properties, and secretly film him from multiple angles. Brueckner's violent and dangerous nature is emphasized throughout the podcast. He has been convicted of raping a 71-year-old American woman, served over 7 years in prison, and was recently released under heavy police surveillance. The suspect is described as unpredictable, aggressive, and involved in a wide range of criminal activities, including burglary, child sexual offenses, and possession of child pornography. George shares shockingly candid footage showing Brueckner's indifference and denial of allegations, highlighting his disturbing behaviors like public indecencies and multiple accounts of abusing vulnerable victims. Despite his release, Brueckner remains under 24/7 monitoring by German police. George shares how he stumbled upon Brueckner living in a tent mere yards away from a children's playground, triggering immediate police intervention to relocate him for public safety reasons. He details the extensive police presence wherever Brueckner goes, including foot patrols, scooters, and cars, underscoring how seriously authorities treat the risk he poses. The suspect himself expresses frustration with constant surveillance, but justifies the police's actions as necessary due to his dangerous past. The podcast covers the controversial evidence connected to the suspect. A significant piece involved police discovering USB sticks with child pornography buried beneath Brueckner's dog's grave. However, this evidence was ruled inadmissible due to improper search warrants. Brueckner consistently claims police planted evidence and attempted to frame him. The discussion also addresses alleged phone records placing him near Madeleine's disappearance site, which Brueckner disputes, implicating police manipulation of evidence as the real explanation. George also shares accounts from Brueckner's acquaintances who describe his strange behavior, such as robbing apartments naked, targeting tourist properties, and giving sweets to children near his former residence. George elaborates on his direct interactions with Brueckner, which were fraught with tension and difficulty. Brueckner repeatedly demanded money for interviews and refused to straightforwardly answer questions about Madeleine. When pressed about the McCann family, Brueckner expressed resentment, claiming their accusations ruined his life and refusing to show any remorse or sympathy. The suspect often deflected responsibility and insisted he was innocent, claiming extensive conspiracies by police to frame him. Still, George observed indications that Brueckner knew more than he admitted, particularly when the suspect casually mentioned willingness to reveal what happened to Madeleine if taken to a non-extradition country. The episode touches on the conspiracy theories and misinformation spread about the McCann family, which George strongly condemns. He argues the McCanns have been unfairly targeted by trolls and blamed for their daughter's disappearance, which he firmly rejects based on evidence gathered. The podcast emphasizes the need to focus on factual investigation rather than speculation and online vilification. George highlights the emotional toll these public accusations have taken on the family and the importance of acknowledging their innocence in this devastating tragedy. In order to potentially clear the air or provide stronger evidence, George discusses his arrangements to conduct a professional lie detector test with Brueckner. The suspect has agreed to participate, purportedly trusting George to administer it fairly. This polygraph test is proposed as a critical next step in establishing the truth behind the allegations. The results could significantly influence public perception and official investigations, either shifting suspicion away from Brueckner or confirming his involvement. The conversation briefly introduces the new platform secretsfromthegrave.com, which George has set up to allow individuals to record encrypted video messages that can only be accessed after their death. This tool offers people a chance to share untold secrets or final confessions in a secure and legally protected way. George suggests this could one day reveal truths in cold cases like Madeleine's, should those involved choose to disclose information posthumously. George candidly shares his own struggles, coping with the stress of investigating such a dark and complex case. He sought counseling to deal with anxiety and feelings of discomfort after spending so much time around Brueckner and absorbing the disturbing nature of his crimes and personality. The toll of working undercover on such a notorious and dangerous figure weighs heavily on him, highlighting the personal costs inherent in investigative journalism of this depth. Throughout the podcast, George expresses unwavering conviction about Brueckner's guilt based on the accumulated evidence and personal experience. He portrays the suspect as the only person truly knowing what happened to Madeleine McCann, whose fate remains a horrific mystery after nearly 2 decades. While acknowledging the police are still investigating, George is hopeful that his findings will contribute to bringing Brueckner to justice and eventually resolving this long-standing tragedy.